Nailed it.
Thank you very much. Yes, this is proper van. Proper van air. It's 2014.
Start with that one, nice and soft. That's a manual brush, it's a bit harder. The wire loops, like an isokern, like clay,
I know, yeah.
clay chimney.
Yes.
All the way up, that's quite good on that. I'll get into the tar on that. And that's me one for liners.
Yeah.
It's got the bits on the top take out birds' nests.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And that obviously, when that spins up. Yeah.
That is astonishing.
That's the version for using that on an Arga flue, so it'd be really flexible. Chimney liners.
The smaller, yeah.
You got mask.
Well, this is Matthew Clark, and you're in charge of Chimney Sweeps Somerset. Hopefully, our aim is to learn a bit about that and benefit from your experience and see whether any of us should really give a damn about sweeping. Because it's a contentious issue in some ways, isn't it? Am I right in thinking you're still allowed to do it yourself?
Yeah, so you could go out tomorrow, buy yourself a set of rods. Not only could you do it yourself, you could call yourself a chimney sweep and go off and sweep someone else's chimney.
Intriguing.
There's
no barrier to entry.
In some ways, completely unregulated from that perspective. It's not like, my friend's a pharmacist. He's about to change jobs. He's no longer ever allowed to call himself a pharmacist anymore because it's a protected term. But chimney sweep, call yourself what you like.
So, sorry, say that again. A pharmacist.
So if you're not practicing pharmacy, you are not allowed to refer yourself as a pharmacist.
You could say, I was a pharmacist.
I have done a degree in pharmacy.
Right.
I was a pharmacist.
Right.
But you can't say, I'm a pharmacist who's now he's going to go work in the church, he's become a vicar. So he couldn't, he can't say, I'm a pharmacist, but currently I'm a vicar. He has to say,
that's such a funny job change.
I was a pharmacist, now I'm a vicar.
Oh mate, that's hilarious. Okay.
So but yeah, chimney sweeping, not quite like that. Anyone,
Yes.
It gets lobbed on the back of a lot of vans. You see a lot of people, I do window cleaning, gutters, carpets, and clean chimneys. I don't know whether the carpet cleaning came before or after the chimney sweeping, whether that was they stuffed it right up and then they had to...
They had to buy some more equipment to go, let's do this now as well.
As it happens.
Have you ever had a similar situation where you might go into carpet cleaning?
I will have left the odd mark on someone's carpet.
Yeah.
And
occupational hazard.
Occupational hazard. I've swept 15,000 chimneys, probably in 12 years, something like that.
Yes. So you're doing like 1,200 a year or
something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
It's obviously you do that quantity.
Yeah.
And every now and again, you're going to get one wrong. I've been quite lucky. Usually it's like a tiny little mark. And you just say to the customer, look, give it a hoover.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not touching it with my sooty hoover because that's going to make things a lot worse.
Yeah.
You have a go. And if you're not happy, we'll get it cleaned. Just let me know and we'll get it cleaned.
Yeah.
And I find that, look, you just got to be honest with people. Things go wrong.
Yes.
You make mistakes.
Yeah.
I had one person last year who I somehow managed to drop a rod right onto their beautifully upholstered chair that looked about £3,000 worth of chair. And I was like, oh. And I was like, well, you have to own this one. So I went, look, I'm really sorry. This is what's happened.
Yes.
And he was like, my wife hates that chair. And she's getting re-upholstered next week. She hates the colour. I was like,
holy cow.
Who cares? I went,
mate, speaking of the vicar, there was something
there was something going on, yeah.
Because they could have definitely been like, that's awful, it's going to have to be re-upholstered now.
Yeah. So I got super lucky on that one.
Yeah. And I mean, fair play for being like, because I like your candor here, because we all want to believe that nothing goes wrong and it's because I'm a professional and I'm brilliant. The reality is, I don't care who you are, it's gone wrong.
Oh yeah, too right. Yeah.
I've never been trained to sweep. I obviously know my industry pretty well, but what is different?
So I think on the very basic level,
Yeah.
you are removing combustible material from the chimney.
Yeah.
So when a fire burns, some of that fuel doesn't combust.
Yes.
That chimney, that smoke, that is then the smoke.
Yeah.
And that smoke rises through the chimney. And in a perfect world, there is very little smoke because you're burning your fire beautifully.
And you've got dry fuel.
And you've got dry fuel and you've got enough oxygen and all that sort of thing coming through your air vents. And the gases that are coming off your fire are hot enough that they are escaping out the top of the chimney before they condense.
Yes.
Because when that smoke condenses, that sticks to the inside of the chimney, and that is what soot is.
Okay.
So essentially, what you're removing is removing the unburnt fuel that is stuck to the inside of the chimney.
Yeah.
That, on a very basic level, is what chimney sweeping is. Now, obviously, as part of that service we provide, you are inspecting things. So you're checking that the appliance hasn't cracked, or a bit hasn't fallen off, or something's corroded, or the liner that, the chimney liner that's been in there 30 years hasn't disintegrated, or maybe you haven't got a liner in there, and when you do the smoke test, smoke comes out of 4 pots. You like a smoke pellet at the end of the chimney, and you want it to be coming beautifully out of one chimney pot.
Yes.
And the insides of a chimney stack, every fireplace in your house has its own chamber, and they all sort of wiggle their way together. But they've still got a brick divider between each flueway.
So you've got one stack with
almost
a
it looks
grid system.
Bit like a noughts and crosses board.
Yeah.
So you've got a grid, and each one links to each square links to a fireplace. Now, what can happen is, over time, they've either been poorly built and a brick falls out, or the mortar joints sort of corrode, because soot's corrosive and they weather, and these things have been up 150 years.
Yeah. So you get leaking into
You get leaking, and then if the smoke leaks into the other chamber, it probably will go out the top.
Unless it's capped.
But it could also not come out the top, because you've got a cold chimney that's never used, and maybe you've got cold air falling down that chimney.
Yes.
So you've got hot air rising up this chimney and cold air driving down this chimney, and a bit of smoke goes sideways and then gets sucked down into another room.
And you're sleeping in
sleeping in that room, and
yes.
So it's not. So I always suggest to people, if they've got an unlined chimney and you've got bedrooms on the same stack, I might put carbon monoxide alarm in there. Just because I think, why not? They're 25 quid, they last 10 years, so they're dirt cheap, and it might save your life.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting because, in my slightly cynical days, I might think to myself, oh, don't worry about that. I can shove a rod up and down a flue. I don't need some guy with a badge to do that.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit more to it.
We were talking about anyone can buy themselves a set of rods and call themselves a sweep.
Yes.
And we were joking that perhaps the carpet cleaning and the sweeping, which one came first, chicken or the egg sort of thing. And I think the number of conversations I've had with people that go something on the lines of, my husband swept the chimney last year, never again. Because just the state of the room.
Yes.
The beauty of getting someone who knows what they're doing. One is they're going to do all the checks properly.
Yeah.
2 is, they're going to do the job properly.
Yes.
And 3, your room isn't going to look like it's all gone wrong.
Yeah.
So all these things are.
So
Yeah.
depending, I suppose you're heavily affected by the draw on the chimney. If you've got a cold chimney, it's not sucking soot up it; it's just staying there. Or maybe you've got a downdraft.
Yeah.
So it's experience, isn't it? Because I'm the uninitiated are
Yeah.
going to walk straight in, rod it. You've got a bit of downdraft,
And all the soot's going back into the
and
room.
it's just filling your bedroom.
Yeah.
Or your living room,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever it is. But I'm a novice in this area, so correct me, but I'm thinking you're filling whatever void you've got with sponge, then putting extraction within that. You've got breathing apparatus on.
Yeah. I've got an FFP3 mask
Like
with a
full-powered
full on.
mask,
I look
haven't you?
like Darth Vader when I turn up to Super
Yeah,
Chimney.
yeah.
I did once have someone remove their child at some speed from the room as I started with wearing my respirator, you know.
Because they thought,
Because it's good grief, what's going to happen?
Yes.
And the reality is I do it because I'm sweeping over
Every
1,000
day.
chimneys a year, you know.
Yes.
And I'm sweeping every day, and I'm a foot away from the fire.
Absolutely.
And they're 4 meters away. Yeah, the reality.
And they've done it, and they've experienced it once in a year.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. So it's that side of things of you wearing a respirator is obviously a little dramatic to see, but that's just because you're exposed to it day in, day out.
Yeah, you know.
And you're emptying your Hoover and you're living with soot everywhere you go. All your rods, everything is covered.
Yeah.
So how do you do it? What do you? Is there a difference in what you do? Is there? Because in my head it is just.
Brush goes up, soot comes down. Yeah.
Shove the brush up, pull it down. That'll do.
So when you turn up at the property, you are. It's amazing the number of things that you sort of intrinsically pick up.
Yeah.
So you turn up at the property and immediately you knock on the door. First of all, you're driving up to the house, and a bit of a clue for where you're going is there a chimney on this house? So naturally you're driving around, you're looking at the chimney pots, and you go, is that number 15? Oh no, well, that's not got a chimney, that one. It can't be that one. Maybe it's the odds are on the other side, or whatever it is. You know, you drive up and you look and you go, okay, right. And you just do this sort of natural inspection without even thinking about it, because you go, yeah, right, it's got a bird guard on the top of the chimney.
Yeah.
Okay, what type of bird guard has it got? Is that likely to mean that it's a... Because sometimes customers don't tell you particularly much information. So usually
they might not know.
They might not know. But is it the sort of... so sometimes you might be turning up and you thought it was going to be solid fuel, and it turns out it's gas. And you go, okay, actually, no, looking up there, I can tell that's not going to be solid fuel because it's got a gas terminal on the GC1 cowl on the top or whatever. Or you look up and you go, okay, it's got one of these sort of crow guards that looks a bit like a witch's hat with a metal spike with it.
Yeah.
Okay, you think, right, I'm going to have to be careful that when I shove my rods up, that's just push fit. I'm not going to...
see, you just push it straight off.
Push it straight off. I mean, those ones you've got to push quite hard to get them off. But there are other styles that will certainly pop out quite happily. Or, oh yeah, I can see they've got chicken wire wrapped around the top.
Yeah.
And that is, one, not to regs.
No.
Two, I can't see when my brush reaches the top of the chimney.
No, that's a really good point.
And three, the birds will eat through it.
Yeah.
So, you know, a roofer or whatever loves whacking one of them on the top, or they put one of those half dome sort of clay inserts.
Yes.
That have printed on them not for live use.
Yes.
And yet they are on
Tons of chimneys.
And
they're also just drop in.
They drop in, but they weigh about 10 kilos. So maybe not 10 kilos, they're blooming heavy.
Yes.
So you ain't going to be you'd be quite well from 8 meters away with some bendy rods
to shove that off.
But yeah, you know, like you sometimes think, oh, good grief.
Do you ever have an occasion like you've opened a door to things that I hadn't really considered, because of course it could go wrong one day and something comes off and who knows what that... I mean, that's
on the car.
horrendous.
Yeah.
But presumably you're also checking, because you'll turn up to old properties where the chimney pot's all cracked.
Yeah.
And you're thinking,
Yeah.
if that disintegrate, I'm the one that's there.
Yeah.
How does that, what do you do in that situation?
So I think the important thing is to keep the customer informed.
Yes.
So one, I will be pretty careful on, particularly on the equipment I choose.
Yes.
So there's different styles of rods, and your traditional manual sweeping brush, which is the big round head.
Yeah, like in Mary Poppins.
Quite stiff.
Yeah.
And if just the force going up into a pot
could shove it open.
I've had that happen once, I think.
Right.
Very early days. And I actually couldn't really see the pot from the front of the house. Yeah. And I could just see the top of the guard from the back of the house.
Right. Oh, crikey.
And so I was like, okay, so it was in like a valley in between two roofs.
Oh,
and I was like, and my brush went up and it went, I was like, oh, okay, that's or a bit of pot landed actually in the living room. And I was like, is it not through the roof, but down the chimney? Yeah. And that was a bit of a, okay, right, that's a, so I had a bit of a conversation with the bloke. And the bloke, again, was very nice.
Yes.
I think in general, you understand that you get to the fact that people are generally reasonable.
Yes.
But there are also things like, so if you push your manual rod up through, might disintegrate the pot. Sometimes you can put a camera up the chimney and you can measure off to just below the chimney pot level.
Yes.
And then, so you could sweep that bottom bit and then maybe go up with a smaller brush and just do the top bit.
Okay, yeah.
If it's just cobwebs in there, maybe I'll just poke the camera head up into it.
Yes.
Because you can do that carefully, and I know that's, or you can use a rotary brush, and I've got a very soft rotary, so you can do this. I don't know if you know, but this rotary power sweeping, where
a drill is
in effect, it's a drill on the end of your rods, and then various brush heads that are designed to go on that. And I've got one sort of that looks a little bit like a traditional sweeping brush head, except it's incredibly floppy.
Right. Okay.
And then when you spin it on the end of your drill, obviously that throws the centrifugal force throws it open, and you can sort of get that up quite happily into some slightly dodgy pots. And then if they've got like a bird guard that's clamped around the pot, obviously because the chimney pots have got some thickness, about
an
just
inch
an inch thick, something like that. If you pick up a puzzle and you do it under tension, you can actually pick up a puzzle and sort of move it.
Yeah.
You can almost do the reverse with a chimney pot, where if you've got a clamp around the outside of it,
it's not going to fall out.
Stuff has to move outwards to fall apart.
Yes.
And so those sort of things you're trying to pick up as you enter a property.
Yeah.
Along with how old the property is.
Yeah.
Those are other things you're trying to work out. Is it built in the last 5 years? Is it 400 years old?
Yes.
Because those things will determine what material everything's made out of.
Yeah.
What the requirements for ventilation would be. The fact it's a 400-year-old property, it might well have an open fire and almost certainly won't have an air vent, so it won't meet any kind of current regulations anyway.
Yeah.
But similarly, it will also probably work fine because it's going to leak like a sieve. Whereas the house that was built 5 years ago,
it's like a hermetically sealed
exactly.
box.
Yeah. Unless you've got air vents all over the place, it isn't going to work. And so all those things you're kind of picking up, and then you're chatting to the customer and you're talking to them and you're saying, so do you have any problems? Because I can go over there and I can have a look, but I'm not using the fire every day.
Yes.
And then you're picking up clues from what they're saying. So they might say something like, when the wind blows in this direction, I have a problem.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's tricky to light.
Yeah. You're also an installer, aren't you?
I am an installer, yeah.
So this is also an opportunity to improve things, tweak things.
Yeah.
Is it? I realise this is a slightly contentious question, but I think it's a question that's important to people watching because sometimes we don't trust these things. I imagine there's an element to which this can be tempting because you can, if you're not very busy, you can get work.
What? Yeah, you can sell another job for yourself.
You can manipulate,
Yeah,
can't you? 'Cause
I suppose so. I mean, like everything.
the reason I'm asking that is
Yeah.
I know you, and you are a painfully honest person. Sometimes to the detriment of yourself, you will say it like it is.
Yeah.
And so I think you can probably speak to that because you are an honest guy.
Yeah, I think that, like everything, integrity comes into it.
Yeah,
You can blind someone with science.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if I picked the right person and I went to town on a whole bunch of things that were, I could sell them an entirely new stove.
New stove, new
New
system.
stove. Oh, because we changed the stove. Well, yeah, it's been in there 3 years, so you probably ought to do the lining, and you better do and all these things that actually it probably needs some new fire bricks.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there will, in whatever industry you're in, there are going to be some rogues. I think that's just unfortunately a given. If you're looking for someone, speak to people you know. Oh, who do you use? How do you get on with him? Is he good? Is he not? Are you?
I'm a fan of word of mouth.
Word of mouth, yeah. And then you can start going down have they got accreditation? So I'm a NVQ qualified chimney sweep. So there is only there is some historic qualifications that some people have got. There's an NVQ in chimney sweeping. So hopefully that sort of obviously you don't have to have because it's a completely unregulated industry. So hopefully the fact that someone's gone down that route is showing that they've got pride in their work.
Yeah.
And we are Guild of Master Chimney Sweeps qualified sweeps or members of Guild. We're members of Guild of Master Chimney Sweeps.
Yes.
So they've got. If I imagine if I was ripping a whole bunch of people off and they found out about it, they would be having a word with me.
Yeah, these people are there to hold you to account.
And similarly, HETAS will hopefully do an element of that.
Yes. Do HETAS? So you're a HETAS registered installer. They also do HETAS registered sweeps.
They do HETAS sweeping, a HETAS sweeping course.
There are
and there will also be probably similar things with some other sweeping organisations that if you don't, you can skim by and you don't do any of your continued professional development and all those sort of things. I qualified 12 years ago. Well, the minimum requirement for me is I do a 5-year refresher. That's all I have to do. I've got to do 1-day course every 5 years to keep my ticket with the guild.
Right. Okay.
But
and that's training with the guild, not with NVQ.
Nothing like that.
No.
And anything you do on top of that. So I try and do a training course a year of some sort.
Right.
So I did my NVQ a few years ago. I did historic thatched properties this year.
Right.
I did integrity testing last year.
Wow.
So the things that I try and do to keep myself abreast, partly of, and every 5 years, one of those, that continued professional development is your refresher. Yes. But I think it's important to get round a table with some other sweeps. And actually the thing you learn you do learn stuff on the course.
Yeah.
But the thing you actually learn from is having the chat at lunchtime or whatever else it is. And it's, how do you do that?
How do you overcome that problem?
Really stupid one, right? I've been sweeping twin wall systems where you go out the top of the stove through the wall, and on the outside of the wall you have this debris collection point, on the bracket on the outside. Well, when you sweep
where all the soot falls
where all
down.
the soot ends up.
Yeah.
I was like, how do I clean that out without wearing it? It's up here.
Yeah.
And you take it off, and there's
everything.
the lip on it's about that, but there's that much soot in there.
Yeah.
So as you pull it out, this sort of 6-inch tube is just dropping.
Yeah.
And someone just went, well, what you do is you take that sump off to start with and use it and put a bag around it, and then all the soot ends up in the bag. I was like, it's taken me 7 years to find that out. And you haven't got to get your tape out because all you use is usually the clip that clips the sump on.
Yeah.
You just whack that around the bag and just do the clip up again.
Yes.
You haven't even got to get anything else out of the van. I was like, yeah. So, but even a real simple level, You know,
Yeah,
and I probably made a mess of tens of people's garden paths because
there was no good way of doing it.
there was no good way of doing it until there was.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing you get through having the conversations and going on these courses, because you don't learn that on. They teach you how to sweep a chimney and they tell you you've got to empty the sump.
Yeah, of course.
And it's only when you start speaking to people who've been doing it for 15 years that they say, oh, and this is how you do it without, yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to see how a pro lights a stove. Okay, mate. As always, we have 3 kilos of wood, 10 pieces of kindling, 2 fire lighters. You are allowed to use a total of 2 matches as well.
Oh.
And it's off you go.
Right. This feels like going to customers' houses because it's the worst thing when you turn up at someone's house and you're the professional. You're supposed to know what you're doing, and they then ask you to help them light the fire or something. I've seen Gabriel do this on his videos, and it just lobs all his kindling in. But I'm a bit more pedantic, and I do a nice little Jenga tower.
At the moment, you can hear me breathing, which sounds awful, but I think throwing the kindling in is a good idea.
It'd be a nightmare if I was allowed 2 matches and then I bust both matches. That would be really bad.
Yeah, having a DNF is not good.
So what we got to get up to here somewhere?
Yeah, the first line on the outside, you'll see there's a little...
That one there?
Yeah, that's it. That's where we've got to get to.
240 or something. I'm sure the tortoise ones are very accurate. But they have been known to show a massive range of readings.
Yeah, well, I figure if we always use the same one, it will be equally inaccurate.
I could use my second match and hold it on the little back of the...
Oh!
Try and get to 225 just by...
Just with a match?
With a match.
It could work.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, that only about.
To be fair, I think this idea is absolute genius.
Stop.
He's there! It literally did it in seconds. I mean, I'm now... That's thrown me. I'm part of me thinking we should counter.
I'm not sure whether the extra wood is going to slow it all down.
Mate, no, the extra wood is definitely needed. You are trying to heat up an old school thing without internal baffling systems. Get that stuff in there. One common mistake people make is they treat it like a new thing.
Listen. Have you actually got a dampener in it?
It does have a damper on it. It's currently open.
Maybe I should have a little bracket on my thing. I could have 2 times.
150 is not bad. He's 11 minutes in, so he's, more than halfway there, in theory. Oh, mate, it's actually taken the whole blooming door off. That should get you somewhere. I'm fearful of this, that it might cool it down.
Do you feel like I've not really played by the rules? 1, by taking the entire bottom door off the stove.
Nearly at 200.
And 2, by just holding the match on that.
Right in the It's getting close.
It's getting close.
This is not a bad try. I mean, it's taken a little, we're nearly a quarter of an hour now, which, given what he's done...
So when I do this in a customer's house, often you turn up their house and they go, oh, my stove's not working. You swept it a month ago and now it's not working. You go,
oh, yeah, that's not good.
Right, okay, I'll come out. And turn up with your wood. So turn up with your own wood. That's the first thing. Your own wood, your own kindling, your own firelighters. Because that's the only way that you can try isolate their stove from the issue. And then the relief when when you get the blooming thing going. Have a little look. It looks all right.
Right, I know you're focused on that, Matt, but you need to be focused on the task. Oh, we're not...
That's got
That tapping's not a bad idea.
If anyone beats your time, have you got to shut the YouTube channel down?
Shut it.
That's it, it's over.
Yeah, I think so.
One evening, I was sat at home and I left the door ajar to get the fire going.
Yeah.
And I forgot that I'd left the door ajar to get the fire going, and I was just watching the telly.
Yeah.
And then this fell off the stovepipe.
That was hot, but you need to get this stove hot.
Trying to work out how long you've been going for is quite hard.
It is, yeah. 21 minutes, mate. That's what you've been doing. 21 minutes. Oh, he's there. 21:10.
We are.
Done. It's not bad. 21:10, it's not bad. This concept of, you know, why this is important and what it means. Why do we care? What's the you've told us that, you know, essentially we're building up the fuel that hasn't burned.
Yeah.
Modern stoves are burning cleaner and cleaner and cleaner, aren't they? I mean, this thing came out of a skip and was designed in probably the 70s or the 80s, maybe. And I love it, but this is probably about as bad as it gets.
Yes. And there are things that are working in its favour, in that you are not trying to slumber it and run it for long periods of time, and you know, it's a fairly straight run and not a hugely tall system, so that's going to help you.
Okay.
Because, as we say, the soot's got to condense and stick to the side of the chimney, and if it's getting out the top of the chimney quickly, that's going to decrease possibly the amount of soot in the chimney.
Right.
But one of the things that I think is becoming more... So I suppose the very basic principle is you're trying to stop yourself having a chimney fire. Often.
That's the aim. That's the threat.
That's one of the threats.
Okay.
So if you fill your chimney full of soot and it's, you know, really caked on, you get some real hard sort of glassy tars and creosotes in the chimney that are very tricky to remove with sweeping, but can be removed under specific sort of circumstances, or the sweep might recommend that you use a chemical additive over the course of the year that's going to
draw the moisture out.
Dry it out and crisp it all up, and then it comes out that much easier.
Yes.
So
should everyone use that generally, or is that unnecessary?
I would say probably that is unnecessary.
Okay.
If you're burning decent quality wood, but slightly getting myself a bit sort of sidetracked on that one, going back to why we get our chimneys swept. Yeah. So remove that combustible material from the flue. That's one of the main reasons. One of the reasons that is becoming more known is an insurance requirement, or giving the insurance companies room to wriggle. Right. So at the point at which, you know, they never ask for the insurance certificate unless you're in a thatched property, basically. Right. Until you have the chimney fire that burns half your house down. Yes. And then they say, when was it last swept?
But you're still allowed to have said, I did it on Thursday or whatever.
Well, but are they going to believe you?
Right, okay, because you haven't got...
So the beauty from me is that you get a certificate, and any qualified sweep, so that's HETAS, the Guild of Master Chimney Sweeps, National Association of Chimney Sweeps, Association of Independent Chimneys, there's loads of different organisations that we can all issue an insurance a certificate that if you gave to your insurance company and said,
they would recognise.
They'd go, okay, yeah, I can see that was done 3 weeks ago. Yeah. That shouldn't have happened. Or I can see that was done 11 months ago. And we say that, you know, and it, you know, minimum of once a year is fine. And they're going to go, okay, yeah, you've done your bit. But if you said, oh, I did it, they're going to go, well, can you prove that?
Yeah. Obviously, I grew up with stoves from a very young age. So I had times as a child where I would deliberately set fire to the chimney with my dad.
To clean it out.
To clean it out. Now, we were deliberately experimenting with things.
Yeah.
Because we're, we want to play, which is why I now review stoves, because it's all about learning and playing, and it's an obsession that's happened ever since I was about 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
But also, you know, you encounter customers who have done it, and you're like, okay, I want to learn about this, and so we will have deliberately set chimneys on fire. And actually, what we found is the greater threat to not managing your chimney properly is what you touched on before. You've got a chimney stack with a grid system within it,
Yeah.
and that entire grid system over time is completely destroyed by that soot.
Yes.
Because you build up acid
Yep.
within it, and it slowly breaks it down. Now, of course, we use that as a sort of reason to, and I'm very pro using a chimney liner.
Yeah.
Because my experience is that when you don't, the problem's 10x.
Yeah. I encounter people who have had chimney fires on a regular basis, and some of them won't even have known they've had one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I was going to get to. Is what's the bigger what's the most common problem that you discover from?
Yeah. I mean, so different way to look at it. The most common non-compliances, okay, would be carbon monoxide alarm not in the right place or not have one at all.
Yeah.
I don't know, distance to combustible materials. That's quite a big one that, you know, either people have retrospectively put a nice oak beam in that's 6 inches away from the fire.
What's your view of that? Because I never care. Because I've done, again, so much silly testing where I'm like, this is just about people saying, I don't want to be blamed. In the real world, like, if we get a bit of kindling and put it on top of that stove,
It's going to be fine.
none of us care, do we?
No.
Like, I don't
So-
care at all.
So I think that
Lynn, can you get us a bit of kindling? Just because I'm being childish.
So, the
Outside.
the argument is that you're not worried about the stove being at, you know, 150 degrees C.
Yeah.
Okay. What you're worried about is when you're having a chimney fire that's 1,000 degrees.
Yes.
And so I'm.
So you've got a wooden surround, and a chimney fire ordinarily is not a threat. It is a threat, but it's not diabolical. But if it then sets fire to your living room,
That's bad news.
then it's very bad news.
Yeah, I think the chimney fire thing, one is off the stove.
Yeah.
Also, chimneys are tricky to inspect. You know, like the case you've got your brick-built chamber,
Yeah.
but in some old houses, has some enterprising joiner stuck a roof truss, like a ceiling joist into the chimney
That
because
happens all the time.
yeah, and you've got your liner running up the flue,
Leaning against
the end of a bit of wood.
Yeah.
You get your 1,000 degrees going up there. That then
is
smoulders
where
on the
it
end
goes
of your log, and then you find you have a problem.
So
now,
my opinion is very naive, because I look at the chimney fire and I say, I assume that the chimney is a non-combustible surface, and there's not. I've made certain assumptions and made an ass out of me and me, because if everything's working as it should, a chimney fire
it probably burns out.
Yeah, it doesn't generally.
You're probably fine, but you're not definitely fine.
I mean, don't
and
get me wrong,
possibly
it does destroy your clay lining or your liner.
you say they're all cracked and
You destroy lots of things, but it doesn't necessarily burn the house down.
no.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're unlucky if it does, but it's a possibility. And possibly what you and your dad were doing by having one on a regular basis.
Yeah.
You know-
Well, it wasn't that regular. We were mucking about.
I think that as a rule of thumb, better way of cleaning your chimney is get it swept.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that I've never come out to a post chimney fire to sweep a chimney and gone, there's nothing in there.
Very clean.
Very clean. That bit of hard tar that was there last year ain't there anymore.
No. But presumably the liner's wrecked.
Quite often. Yeah, sometimes.
Because after about 1100 degrees, the nickel in the stainless steel basically is gone.
Yeah.
You're left with just mild steel.
Yeah.
And it rots out in 6 months.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, it's not good for the chimney.
No.
Now, if you've had quite a low smouldering fire, as I say, sometimes the customer doesn't even notice. So
that soot's been smouldering for a month.
Like I would say with my, or like I was all night, let's say.
Yeah.
So like I would say with my Hoover, when I set that on fire.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't flames shooting out the top of the Hoover.
No, it's just
that was just, and you could just see it, just sort of glowing embers on the corners.
Yes.
But what that did was what that would happen in your flue. So if you've got very hard tar creosote, which happens when you've got a very low burning temperature in this flue, when it burns, it expands, and it expands to 4 times its own depth. So you might have a very small layer of glassy tar on the inside of your chimney that smoulders, and as it smoulders, it expands, and that then expands and just blocks the flue, because of course it's a 6-inch gap round there. So if you've got like a 5 mil thick bit of, it's 6 inches there, but very quickly, like, you know,
it's very little.
You could do the maths I'm sure someone could, I couldn't, but that could tell you what that would be 2 inches in or whatever. You know, and actually it blocks incredibly quickly. And then someone calls me up and says, "Oh, my chimney's not working." I go, "Okay, that's a bit interesting. You know, let's come have a look at that and work out what's going on." You see, it worked fine 2 days ago, and it doesn't work now.
Yeah, and they're thinking maybe it needs sweeping, so they've called you in.
Yeah,
and you're going, flipping heck, it needs more than sweeping.
And you, and it might not have even got. Yeah, it might have smouldered. So it probably wasn't 1,000 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's 1,000 degrees, it sounds like a jet engine is going off.
Yeah.
You know, it's. It's really racing up. It's sucking huge amounts of air into the bottom, and you've got flames coming out the top of your chimney. But if it's just smouldering, they haven't realised it's happened. And what happens is I then sweep it, and I'm getting almost like black honeycomb out of the chimney, and it goes from this really hard tar that you will struggle to sweep it off. You won't get it off with a manual brush.
No.
You might get it off with a rotary whip.
Right.
Looks like strimmer wire on the ends of a brush head.
Yeah.
And on some surfaces you can get away with using metal wire or chains or something like that to try and chip off this hard tar. But you're going to have to be careful, and you wouldn't want to use that in a liner, and you wouldn't want to use it in a 400-year-old chimney, because you'll take off chimney rather than soot.
Yes.
But when it burns, it honeycombs and it goes really crispy and full of air holes. Yes. It almost looks like inside of a crunchy.
Yeah.
Except much softer, and you can sort of literally just crush it and it turns to dust in your hand.
Wow.
But that's expanded, and that will completely block the flue. And that's often when someone says, "Oh, I've had a chimney fire." That's how you know.
Right. You've got this.
Because you've got that deposit.
Crunchy.
The crunchy deposit.
Cadbury's crunchy right up through the chimney.
And if they want to sponsor the tortoise, I'm sure.
Yes, Cadbury's, we do. You know, we're into that.
So there are all these little things that can happen, you know, with your fire, and all these things are things that we're checking. And I think sweeping has been. There was definitely for a while where chimney sweeping, if you were writing it on your van insurance form, it went down under the thing of unskilled labour. Yes. That was the category it went under.
Right.
You know, because you just shoved a brush up there, took your money and ran off.
Yes.
But more and more, the role of a sweep is advice and
technical
diagnosis, nudging people in the right direction. You know, someone sells you a stove, And even if they do the world's best handover, you're going to remember 10%. Because you've never seen your stove before. And someone says, and this is what you do with the air controls, and this is how you do it, and this is the temperature you've got to burn it, and this is the type of wood you've got to use, and this is this, and this is this, and this is this, this is this. And then they go, oh, which one do I open to light it? And that's the bit they're trying to remember, because they've never had a stove before, they've never had that stove before. How do I use it? And actually, the following year, they get the sweep in, and the sweep says, right, based on how you've been burning it, because I can tell, because I can see how bigger deposits are in the flue, what type of deposits are in the flue, the fact that you've been slinging the logs in from 3 feet away because it's a bit hot,
all your bricks.
Shattered all the fire bricks, you know, and you've, whatever, I don't know, the rope is falling off because you've been cleaning the glass and you've been rubbing away on the rope at the same, whatever you've been doing. We can go, have you tried this? Or they go, do you know what? It's a real nightmare to light. And I go, okay, that's interesting. Can you tell me how you've been lighting it? Okay, that's right. You've been doing it like that. Have you tried lighting it like this? Use a bit more kindling. Give it plenty of air. Try top-down lighting. Whatever it is, you can just nudge people in the right direction, or your logs.
And every year, like you with your I mean, I was really impressed by the idea that I'm hugely impressed by the idea that you try and educate yourself on a new skill every year. But effectively,
you're doing the same for the customer.
That's what you're doing. You're just prodding.
And you might say the same bit of information for 2 years on the trot. You might say, your wood's a bit wet. Your wood's a bit wet. And then after 3 times of saying that, they go,
my wood is a bit wet.
My wood is a bit wet.
That's humanity, isn't it? I've got one final question. Just because we've touched on it quite a lot, and we can, if there's anything else you want to mention, then I'm definitely keen to hear it, because I feel like I've learned a lot. But we've talked a lot about chimney fires. What do we do? Chimney fire's starting, we can hear it, we're scared. What do we do? Presumably you're going to say you call 999, but is there other things that we do in the immediate?
I might shut the air vents on my stove. Try and restrict some of the air at the bottom.
Slow this thing down.
Slow this thing down a bit.
In my own life, I think I would probably pull everything out of the stove, chuck it in the garden, but I'm a bit more of I'm used to stoves, and I'm a bit more willing to grab something and throw it out in the garden.
I suppose my only worry with that is you're moving...
You're spreading the fire.
It's all right as long as you get it outside.
Throw it into the patio door.
Oh no, I haven't opened the door yet. It's gone on the carpet. I've gone on the curtains.
So the idea, I mean, fundamental things is call the fire brigade, but we don't leave the doors open.
No,
we close everything down.
I would shut the air vents, I think.
Matt, I'm really grateful. I feel like I've learned some things, and I feel like you've justified your industry as not unskilled workers who are con men trying to sell you new flue systems.
I try. No, generally, I'm there going, I now have to tell them this is going to cost them some money.
That's a horrible day, isn't it?
Someone described chimney sweeping as a bad news game. You turn up at their house, and everyone assumes you're going to sweep the chimney and tell them it's all fine. And then you've got to break the news to them that it's not all fine. And they either ignore you, they go get another sweep who hopefully doesn't tell them the same thing as you did. Or
what proportion are you the bad news guy?
It's fairly common to say, this isn't quite right.
Burn some better fuel.
Burn some better fuel. It's a bit too close to your wooden surround. This is something that would be a good
MOT advisory.
It's a minor.
MOT fails.
MOT fails.
1%.
I would.
5%.
1% maybe.
1%. Mate, thank you very much for your time.
All right, you're welcome.
And thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Well, mate, I think we've more than everything we could have ever.
I need to go to a plumber's merchants at some point, and I need to go to the scrapyard, and then we're going off to Lucy's dad's for dinner. But
Sort of real world.